act surprised? Do I act shocked? Do I be optimistic? Do I add words of encouragement? Should I say y'all could have been strategized against this? I don't want to be a pessimist. That's the thing. I don't want to be a pessimist. But Texas House of Representatives, they fled the state. The redistricting congressional map. Texas Republicans, they strike again. They strike again, y'all. Before we begin today's video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you're notified whenever I post a new video. Follow me on my social media as we're on the road to 100,000 subscribers, because we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Amen. Amen. Texas House of Representatives, they fled the state again. If you don't remember, they actually fled the state prior. This was back in 2021, I believe. Don't fact check me on that. I think it's 2020. Was it 2019? Somewhere around that time, but they fled before. So this time is a little bit different because of the newly drawn congressional map that could give the Republicans 5 extra seats in the state of Texas. They said, oh no, baby. We're not voting on that. We are not voting on that. So much so that Greg Abbott actually technically issued a warrant to Texas Democrats saying, if you don't come back and vote, we're going to get arrested. Okay. With the new congressional map looking to create at least 5 new seats for the House Republicans, President Trump even weighs in. He said, and I quote unquote, that those Republicans are actually entitled to more seats. Oh. Okay, then. I truly believe, and y'all are going to say, oh my gosh, Uduak, you are so hard on the Democrats. You have to be. Sometimes you just have to. It's just tough love at this point. I do think this was semi-preventable. Something about these Texas Republicans, as someone who's originally from Dallas, Texas, you can call those Texas Republicans every name in the book. You can call them racist. You can call them homophobic. You can call them dumb. You can call them stupid. One thing that they are very, very, very strategic. I saw this from a mile away. There was so many state house seats that were high contenders that a lot of Democrats could have flipped, in my opinion. Not a lot, a handful, that they could have flipped if they invested more time and money in those seats. One of the seats was actually very, very close to my district. As someone who was looking outside in, now that I live in DC, I was very confused in regards to why aren't they really investing more money on this candidate? Why aren't they pushing more on this candidate? I think that's where the Democrats went wrong. Would it have saved and prevented this from happening? Obviously not. They could have gained a little something. But that's neither here or there. We're going to watch this clip and then I'm going to let you know my thoughts and opinions after.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott is now ordering the civil arrest of Democrats who left town to block a vote on the redrawing of a congressional map. Now, the redistricting plan could help Republicans flip 5 seats. You see them right here in the 2026 midterms. Texas State Representative Brian Harrison slammed the Democratic revolt on the takeout with Major Garrett.
What they're mad about, but what they won't tell you, isn't that states redistrict for partisan purposes, but that a Republican state is doing this. And quite frankly, the state of Texas should have done this before. Elected Republican leadership here in Texas should be doing everything we can to make sure that Congress doesn't fall to the Democrats. And quite frankly, this is an abject failure of the elected Republican leadership in the state of Texas who let the Democrats flee.
CBS News political reporter Hunter Woodall joins us now from Washington with more on this. Good morning, Hunter. So Governor Abbott seems to have made good on his threat. How did this unfold?
Well, good morning, Errol. And when you look at what's going on in Texas, this is an issue that very much animates the bases of both major political parties. But it's important to remember what Texas GOP Governor Greg Abbott is doing here. He's still fairly limited because the Democrats that have fled, they're in Illinois, it sounds like they're in New York. They're outside of Texas's boundaries. They're outside of Texas's control because they're out of state. That just speaks to the tensions that have become, major part of this political moment as both major parties look at this. Now, it's important to remember, too, what this means for both political parties. And Texas Democratic Rep. Julia Johnson is somebody who's going to be impacted by these new maps potentially, and she's been talking about this as well.
We're all very proud Texans. We come from a state of great pride. And I never thought, as a Texan, as an elected member of the Texas House of Representatives, and now as an elected member from Texas to the United States House of Representatives, that I would see the governor of the proud state of Texas bend a knee to a felon from New York.
That's the thing, all of this comes down to how it impacts Donald Trump, how it impacts the future of his presidency. And right now, Republicans have a very narrow majority in the U.S. House. So both sides are showing just what Texas could mean for the 2026 midterms, where, as you said, 5 seats could go from Democrat control to GOP control just by simply changing these Texas maps.
Yeah, the balance of power is at stake here. What happens next?
That's really the key question here. What happens next? What goes on? Right now, obviously, like I said, it's fairly limited what Republicans can do in Texas to get these Democrats back. But there's that political gravity of the moment. Democrats have talked about they want to see their candidates, their politicians fight back more. This is that key moment. This is them showing, okay, we are fighting back, but they're also threatening to undermine their own messaging here. We've talked about how Democrats, many of them from Texas, are in the state of Illinois. Illinois is a Democratic-led state. It is a state that has some of the most poorly graded congressional maps in the entire country. It is a state whose maps actually favor Democrats and have helped pad Democrats' numbers in the U.S. House as they try to regain the majority in next year's midterms. So while that's a change that had happened way back after the 2020 census, you have both states, across the country, Democratic states, Republican states, who have drawn maps that favor their respective political parties. What Texas is doing, trying to redraw these maps mid-decade, is why the tensions are getting so much higher right now.
If you're not aware, this is not something new. The Texas Republicans has always utilized redistricting in a way of keeping control in local politics. That's always been a strategy of them. I think that an issue that we're continuing to see, and it's easier said than done. I'm going to give the Democrats grace on this because it is 100% easier said than done. However, we knew that this was going to happen. And just as I was stating before, I truly feel as someone who's an outside looking in, because I don't live in Texas anymore, for now at least. I live in Washington, D.C. I do think that there could have been more involvement and more investment in a lot of these local races and state house races that had a potential of flipping the red seats blue. One of the seats was actually very, very close to me in regards to location wise. So I was very confused why a lot of investment and money wasn't going towards a lot of these seats that had a strong chance of winning. Like I said before, you can call the Texas Republicans every name in the book, but one thing that they are not is they are not strategically challenged. Like, oh, that's a tongue twister. Strategically challenged. Yeah, they're not strategically challenged at all. If you want to call it strategies, cheating, whatever the case may be, they've done it before and history repeats itself, and they're going to continue to do it again and again and again. I'm still confused. I don't really understand them fleeing the state. What is that going to do? Because they eventually still have to go back and vote unless they just don't show up, or I don't know. I generally don't know. I think that it's one thing to leave and it's one thing to do something, but it's one thing to do something and have a plan. So I'm just confused in regards to what the actual plan is. I will be watching and I will be following along, but till then we just wait and see. Let me know your thoughts on the comments down below. What do you think? Do you think that this is theatrics, or do you think that this is them actually having a backbone? Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you're notified whenever I post a new video. Follow me on my social media as we're on the road to 100,000 subscribers, because we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. I love y'all all. God bless y'all. This is Uduak, connecting people with policy. Toodle.